Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for March 23rd, 2025. I'm Peggy Kay, and today there are updates for YouTube, Bluesky, Threads, Ghost, a bunch of AI updates. So I hope you stick with me. If you have any opinions or suggestions or comments on this week's updates, please share in the live chat or in the comments if you're watching the replay. I hope you all are having a nice spring day. It really feels like spring has sprung. It's beautiful here, a little chilly still, but I'm feeling in a really good mood because of the beautiful weather. So let's get started. There are a few smaller updates on YouTube this week. On YouTube Studio on desktop, the video copyright details page is clear. It has more detailed information about how a copyright claim may affect your video. So in this example, this is from the Creator Insider announcement about this. It shows a video that has an audio claim, and there's details about where in the video the audio is used. And then there's a section on the impact on the video. It says the video is partially blocked in some territories, affecting 0.2% of your audience based on your historical watch time. So, it doesn't actually affect that much of your audience. And then it says the video cannot be monetized. And under feature restrictions, it says shopping tags are not allowed. So then you can decide whether you want to edit the video or dispute the claim or just leave it as is. So that's an improvement. And then YouTube is running some experiments. They are testing the option to hide the end screens at the end of a video. Sometimes the end screens, it's like you see, this is the next video to watch, you should subscribe, whatever. Sometimes they obscure an important part of the video. They're testing a button to hide that and people can restore it. If you see one of these tests, one of these experiments, and you have an opinion, be sure to send feedback to YouTube. They really do want to know what people think, and they do measure how people behave, which is sometimes different than what people say. The other thing that YouTube is testing is an update to the Shorts editor, where if you have text or a sticker you're putting on the short and you kind of drag it around, you'll see these guide bars appear on the side or at the bottom. And it's basically showing you areas of the short where people might not be able to see what you're adding, which is pretty useful. Like, for example, when you're in the Shorts feed, the bottom of the short has video description and other information. So if you put something right at the bottom, people may not see it. And then something else YouTube announced is that some creators may see this notice in their YouTube studio. It's an invite to help build AI protection tools. YouTube says, this is technology for creators to detect and manage AI-generated content showing their faces on YouTube. So this is an option to opt in to provide data to help YouTube develop this. It will be interesting to see what they do and how that works, especially if you're well-known. Deepfakes are obviously a problem. Also this week, I don't have any visuals for these, but also this week, YouTube has improved the member content feed on mobile, so member-only content, and they posted more information about the change that's coming to mid-roll ads for YouTube partners. There are a few other news items. So if you want all of the news and links and updates, be sure to read this week's post or email newsletter, and you can subscribe to the newsletter, get that in your inbox every Saturday. I want to say hi to everybody who's in the live chat. I see Craig and Andrew and Jolyn. It's good to see you here. And Andrew says, I want to hide all video suggestions at the end in the sidebar except my other videos and make that the default for all accounts. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I will say that if you embed video on your own website or in your blog, you can actually add some code to the embed code so that the recommended videos are all from the same channel as the video that you embedded. I usually do that. Does it make a difference? I don't know. When people are watching a video embedded on a website, they may not watch a whole bunch of other videos, but that is not an option on YouTube proper. So a few other small updates. On TikTok, they have added an account security checkup. If you're in the TikTok mobile app, go to your profile, select settings and privacy, and then security and permissions. The page has step-by-step options to secure your account. And if you're using TikTok, you should do that. Like all accounts, it's vulnerable to being hijacked by bad actors. Every account you have, you should secure it as much as you can. And then over on LinkedIn, they really, really are going all in on video. So they have a new Create Video newsletter. It has best practices, product updates, tips, success stories, all those kinds of things. Again, LinkedIn really wants you to upload video to LinkedIn. They don't want you to just share a link to YouTube. If you're active on LinkedIn, this is definitely an opportunity. They're also testing different formats for watching video on LinkedIn, like a full screen vertical video viewer. They're also experimenting with the video tab being there or not. So again, if you're on LinkedIn, consider uploading video there. Those are the video updates I have for this week. Now over to social media. Bluesky has added a referrer for links. So if you have a website or blog, you can look for this referrer and know that the traffic came from Bluesky. It's on the screen here. It's go.bsky.app. So if you're in your analytics and you see traffic coming from that referrer, it's people clicking the link to your site on Bluesky. And Bluesky took this opportunity to make a big point of saying that they don't demote or throttle posts that have links. Some social media sites definitely do. Over on X, for example, they explicitly say they're going to demote posts with links, which is a choice. And it's sort of one of those things that people just assume is true on Threads and Facebook. I'm not sure if it is fully or not, but Bluesky is the only place that has come out really swinging around and saying, we will not throttle your post with links. They believe it should be easy to connect your social following on Bluesky with your web presence elsewhere. This is a nice reason to use Bluesky. And, for a lot of discussions on social media, a relevant link is really important to add context. You have only, what, 280 characters to write something. For an intelligent conversation, you should definitely have sources, or if you're sharing a neat thing somewhere else on the web. It's ridiculous on places like Threads where people actually make two posts. Oh, here is this really cool thing, and they have like a screenshot, and then they have a second post with the link. This is stupid. All right. So speaking of Threads, over on Threads, they've made several updates. They have improved their video player, and I kind of laugh at this, but the improvement is that it has a pause, play, and skip buttons, and a swipeable progress bar. These sound like really basic video player functions. The old video player was very, very bad, and I think if you launch a video player that doesn't have a pause button, there's something wrong with you, because it's really annoying. But anyway, over on Threads, it's better watching videos. Also over on Threads, you can choose to limit replies and quotes of your posts to people who follow you. There's also an option to only allow people you follow to reply and quote your post. So that gives you some control over how your posts are spread and how people engage with it. And then they are really pushing topics. These are clickable topics. So you can add 10 topics to your profile. If you're making a post, they will suggest trending topics or maybe relevant topics, and the topics are more visible in the For You feed. Topics are basically the same as hashtags. I don't know why they're not using hashtags, which are standard, but that's what it is. I do go over to Threads. Already I've seen some spammy posts with the trending topics added, of course, because that's what spammers do. It's not clear to me what Threads is doing to mitigate that. And that's the problem, on all social media. Spammers are going to jump on the latest trends and new features, and they ruin it for everyone. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Ghost. Ghost is a platform for blogging and newsletters. And they just announced that they have ActivityPub integration in beta. Now, ActivityPub is the protocol that's used by platforms like Mastodon. And the idea is that you can federate. So basically, you can talk to each other. It's just the sort of the same idea where, Gmail, email, and you have Hotmail email, and you can email each other, even though it's different platforms that you're on, because they're using the same protocols. So this beta of an ActivityPub integration has two components to it. The first is you can follow other sites that are using ActivityPub. You can get their new posts, you can comment, you can engage, and they should be able to follow you on Ghost. So the idea is that, like, I have a Ghost site, but I can follow someone on Mastodon there. There's also going to be a feed where people can make shorter sort of Twitter length posts, and those will not show up on their main publication, right? Because you wouldn't want to have your blog and have all these tiny little posts also. So there's a separate feed for that. Again, this is all in beta. You have to have a Ghost Pro account to try it, but if you do, you should definitely check it out. They have a list of other platforms that you can communicate with, you can federate with. Of course, other ghost sites, Mastodon, WordPress that has, if you're using WordPress with an ActivityPub plugin, Write Freely, Flipboard, Surf. They say Threads barely works. Threads has some ActivityPub integration. It's not fully there yet. I'm not sure what Meta's doing. There's kind of integration there. If you're using Bluesky, Bluesky is using a different protocol, so you have to use a service like Bridgefed to communicate with them. And they mention things like Tumblr and Button Down. Those have talked about getting ActivityPub integration, but not available yet. And they tell you who you can contact if you want that. So I think this is pretty exciting. So imagine if you didn't have to have a social media account on every platform. Instead, you would just pick one platform, or you would have your blog site, and that would be your social media. And then you could follow people on all the other sites, and they could follow you from whatever site they're on. And it just makes things a lot less complicated. I'm not sure this will ever fully work because many, if not all, of social media platforms, they want you to just be on the platform. They don't want you communicating elsewhere. That's why they downgrade links, right? They don't want people leaving. So I'm not sure how well this will work, but it's early days, and I like the direction this is going in. So one of the other things I want to talk about today are several updates to AI tools that I think are useful. Adobe announced they will let people pick third-party AI models in their apps. Now, this is really important because Adobe has Firefly. It's built into most of their various apps and services right now. And of course, they get people to pay to be able to use Firefly more, right? So this is partially a revenue model, but they acknowledge that people like using different models. So they are starting with Adobe Express, which is totally free to use. Check it out at express.adobe.com. And on Project Concept, this is experimental. It's kind of a mood board kind of thing with AI. It's kind of an interesting project. Starting out, Adobe is going to let people pick from Flux 1.1 Pro from Black Forest Labs, upscalers from FAL, F-A-L, FAL, VO2 and Imagen 3 from Google. Those are the video and image generation models, and runway frames. And they say they'll be adding more AI models as the time goes on. But in the announcement, they make very, very clear what the value proposition of Firefly is, or part of that. They say multiple times how Firefly is commercially safe, with the implication that none of these other models are. It's because Firefly is trained on images that were licensed, whereas most of the other generative AI models just are using data sets that just scooped up everything without any permission. So it's true, if you are making content that you want to use commercially, it's probably a good idea to use something like Firefly, because you're less likely to generate something that's going to infringe on somebody else's intellectual property. And it's just sort of an ethical thing as well. You know, there's so many of these AI models. Oh, we don't need artists anymore because we borged up all the artists' content. And here's this model. Anyway, so if you use Adobe Express, you should check this out. You can choose a different model, and maybe it will work better than Firefly for some things. The other big AI update this week is on Google's Gemini. This is at gemini.google.com. And I think some of this is in the Gemini mobile app. I only checked on the web. So the first thing that they launched is something called Canvas. You can't see very well on the screenshot I shared since it's in dark mode. But if you select Canvas, it is basically a place where you can generate articles, text, and then edit them. You can also do coding there. It's editable. And then you can export what you have to Google Docs. And that will let you share it or collaborate on it. So that's a nice integration. The other thing that Gemini has added, you can now generate an audio overview of your documents. In Gemini, this was a feature that was developed in Notebook LM, which was always kind of experimental, very popular. The audio overviews are sort of like, they sound sort of like a podcast with a man and a woman talking to each other about the documents. So if you want to try this, go to gemini.google.com, click the plus button to upload a document or select a document from Google Drive. And I did this with the draft of my weekly update post. And then you can click the button to generate an audio overview. And it takes a little time, but it generates basically this podcast style overview of the document. If you want to listen to what it sounds like, I have a link in the video description of this week's newsletter. It's the draft of the newsletter, so it's not perfect. It's really kind of interesting to hear, but of course, what it can't do is prioritize part of the document over another part of the document. You know, it's not smart. It's not doing an intellectual analysis. So it can't judge what's important to include or not include or emphasize. But that said, it does sound like two people talking. They even do kind of hesitance. It's they've made it sound less artificial. So it's interesting. And again, you can check out the link in the video description if you want to hear what this week's newsletter sounds like as an audio overview. And then briefly, Microsoft Bing Webmaster Tools now has Copilot AI. This is Microsoft's AI. The idea is that Copilot can give you sort of deep data insights. You can ask questions that give what they call personalized, instant, and accurate responses tailored to the information about your website that you have in Webmaster Tools. It can also give guidance about how to use the tools and maybe improve your website. I thought this was particularly interesting because I think, for me at least, this is the kind of thing that I think AI tools are really useful for. It's very tailored. It's personalized information. You know, so much of what we hear about Gemini, all these other platforms, they want you to plan a party or generate an image, and that's not something I need personally. And a lot of it is kind of only so-so because it's trying to be too general. I think more specific tools like this are much more useful. So those are the updates for this week. And I just want to go briefly what was happening 10 years ago this week. It was live. So 10 years ago this week, everyone was talking about Meerkat and Periscope, two live streaming apps you could use on your phone. At the time, this felt really revolutionary. It was not easy to live stream from your mobile device. It wasn't that easy to live stream at all. And here you have these apps. It's like go live with a few taps. Periscope was founded in 2014, so more than 10 years ago, but it was not launched yet. And Twitter purchased Periscope before it launched. Meerkat had launched in February of 2015, but the really big discussion came. Whoops, that's the wrong slide. There we go. So people really started buzzing about these apps at South by Southwest. That happened 10 years ago this week. Part of what got people talking is that Twitter decided to block Meerkat from its social graph. So the idea was on Meerkat, you connect to your Twitter account and then you can automatically post when you go live and so forth. And Twitter decided to block them. That actually made people talk about them more. It was a big hit at South by Southwest. Apparently everyone was talking about it. And Twitter at this point confirmed that they had purchased Periscope, and a week later they officially launched Periscope as well. And really, overall, in 2015, live streaming, it was hot. There were other platforms. There was Blab. There was Insta Lively. I think there were a few others. But it was really kind of part of the 2015 vibe that people were live streaming. And a lot of this live streaming, it wasn't events, it was people talking to each other. Sort of like the old Hangouts on air, same idea, people having conversations and streaming those live. Interestingly, the really big platforms were much more cautious in launching mobile live streaming. This may have been for technical reasons, but I think it was also for policy reasons, because, of course, it's very difficult to moderate live streams. And especially when people are doing it from their mobile device, they could be live streaming almost anything from anywhere. So Facebook launched their live streaming in August of 2015. They started out with just allowing celebrities to live stream, but they did open it up to basically everyone in early 2016. YouTube was much, much more cautious about this. They didn't launch mobile live streaming until 2016, and it was very slowly rolled out. In 2017, you had to have 10,000 subscribers. In 2019, you had to have 1,000 subscribers to use it. Finally, today, you can mobile live stream if you have 50 subscribers. So it's much more available now than it was 10 years ago. What happened to these companies? Well, Meerkat only lasted into the fall of 2016. So not even 2 years. They pivoted to something called House Party, which was a private live chat app. And Periscope, Twitter kept running Periscope for years, although apparently it had declining users over the years and they kind of stopped developing it. They did integrate most of the features from Periscope into Twitter's own live streaming platform, and they shut down the separate Periscope app in 2021. So where are we today? Today, it's easier than ever to live stream. I kind of feel like in 2015, these apps, the buzz, really gave a boost to the various options for live streaming. Today, look at, I'm live streaming now. It's easy. I could be doing this from my phone if I wanted to. What's interesting, though, is that it became very clear that live streaming just by itself is really hard to sustain on a platform because for people to watch, they have to be on the platform at the exact right time when the streams are live. And people don't rewatch a lot of live streams, especially from these apps where it was mostly just people chatting with each other. Those aren't that exciting to rewatch. So live streaming seems to work better as part of a larger platform, social media sites like LinkedIn or Facebook, um, or video platforms, YouTube or TikTok, where people are on the platform anyway, consuming the other content, and then they can watch a live stream. Of course, you look at platforms that are pure live streaming like Twitch, and you can see they're actually struggling for things like discovery and keeping people on the platform when the things aren't live. So that's where we are today. Thank you very much for joining me. We're now going to have a discussion over on the On eBoard channel. I see Nina's here. Welcome, Nina. We're going to be talking about community. We'd love if you join us, join the discussion. There will be a redirect after the live stream is over. Again, thank you so much for joining me this week. I will see you next Sunday.